Pan de lujo.
Adrian, have I ever told you my ratatouille story?
Not this one.
So, right, so like in Ratatouille, the guy eats and like he's transported to like when he was a kid in his farmhouse. And like, I had an experience like that. Yo, you know me. I'm not like this metaphysical dreamer, dude. Like my feet are right here.
You're not about the energy.
Come on now. All that zodiac, all that shit. I don't care about any of that. My feet are firmly planted in reality right here, Michael. Right here. But when I tell you that I went to a restaurant, I took a bite of a dish, and I was transported to my grandmother's house in New York when I was a kid, yo, it happened. Okay? So that got me thinking. I mean, I'm a maniac, okay? Like, I'm not saying people are going to have experiences like this every day because my intensity and love for food is turned up to like an 11. So that's me, right? But it got me thinking if anyone's had an experience even closely into that realm, okay? Based on my observations of diners in this city, I am confident in saying I doubt it, right? I doubt it because I'm not like trying to write a guide here about how to eat, but in order for something like that to happen, you really need to disconnect from all of the bullshit and connect to what's important, right? I don't really see that happening to diners who go out and like have their phones glued to their hands or, you know, are asking for the Wi-Fi password, right? Going to the bathroom every 20 minutes to do a bump. Like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, right? So, I mean, listen, you go to a restaurant, you want to spend your hard-earned money, you dictate what you want to do. If that's what is fun to you, then God bless you, right? But I guarantee you that if you say to yourself once in a blue, hey, listen, I'm going to go out tonight and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to connect with the food, right? With the service. I want to see and be obsessed with what things look like, how they taste, how they feel. It's going to improve everything about your dining experience. I mean, not everybody, you know, you're not going to go out and, you know, have this orgasmic experience every time you go out to eat, even though that would be nice, right? But the truth is, if you disconnect from the trivial and connect to what's important, it will change your mindset on this industry. And I think it's important to note that because that's how I feel about it every time I go out to eat. But like I said, I'm a maniac.
Well, I want to know what you tried that transported you back to your grandmother's place in New York.
Thank you.
I don't want to get too into detail, but I went out to this fantastic Italian restaurant and I had an appetizer. I had like a burrata with like, right, tomatoes. But they did it in this modern deconstructed way. And as soon as I bit into it, it took me back to when I was a kid. And I used to take slabs of mozzarella cheese, the blocks, the polio mozzarella cheese, and slice it and put tomato sauce on top of it and throw it into the microwave. And that would be like my pizza, a very rudimentary pizza, but my pizza.
A poor man pizza.
Nice.
Yo,
it's like carb approved. It's low carb. You were ahead of your time.
I mean, I know that, Michael, but you know, it is what it is. I don't want to get too romantic or too emotional. Adrian, just start it up, please.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Fancy Bear Podcast, where we talk all things restaurants. I'm one of your hosts, Adrian.
I'm your other host, Ed.
And today we're talking about how the restaurant industry contributes to the community. And for that, we have brought Michael Gongora here, who has completed finishing his third term as a commissioner and is now running for mayor. Do bear in mind, you're going to try to keep this more Miami Beach, since we have a Miami Beach representative, and thus not go too crazy, because of course Miami and Miami-Dade are two different beasts, of course.
Not too crazy.
Not too crazy.
A little crazy.
Shall we? So let's start with you, Michael. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow? What did your folks do? How did you got into politics? Tell us a little about it.
Well, I'm actually a Miami-Dade native, Adrian. I was born in Coral Gables, and I grew up in Miami-Dade. I've lived here all my life, except high school. And I went to University of Miami for both undergrad and law. My parents worked here. My mom was in real estate. My dad worked for Bell South. One's Cuban, one's American. You know, I'm a fusion. I'm a mixture of different cultures. And I moved to the beach back in '92, before you were born.
No, not really.
All right, when I was in
Thank you for that, though.
Yes, when I was in law school. And just fell in love with Miami Beach, you know, the diverse mix of people, the fun events, the great things that were happening. Like the 90s was hot. If you think Miami Beach is fun now, you needed to see it during that period. And everything was just starting new, like new restaurants, new experiences, new places to go. And I built up my law business here on Lincoln Road. And as a result of that, eventually got into government. And I ran in 2006 and won my first election.
Wow. Since then, you have served 3 times as a commissioner, correct?
Right. I got elected 3 times. My first time was a partial term because a commissioner had resigned early to run for a state office. And then I ran for 2 full terms.
Very well. And those were in consecutive, correct?
Correct. All my terms are non-consecutive, which is kind of weird. I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out. I've won, I've lost. Winning is
Sounds like a
better.
lot of Miami, relationships, don't it?
Yeah.
Is there a reason behind that, where you kind of stepped out, stepped in, stepped out?
I did. Actually, in 2013, 10 years ago, I ran for mayor. So I came in second, which means I did not win. And I thought I was done with politics, frankly. I felt I'd done my public service and I was going to focus on my law career. But, it calls you back. If you have that fire for public service, it draws you back. So I ran for my commission seat again in 2017 and won and termed out as a commissioner. And I decided this year the mayor was termed out himself. There's a big change happening on the commission. And I know that I'm the most qualified leader to move us forward. So I'm out here putting myself back on the line to let people know I want to represent you.
You mentioned termed out. How many terms can a commissioner or a mayor can serve?
Well, under the new law, because it was different when I first started, they changed the way term limits work. But how it currently works, as a commissioner, you can serve 2 4-year terms. If you serve more than half of the term, it's considered a term.
Okay.
If you serve less than half, then doesn't count as your term. And for the mayor, you can serve 3 2-year terms. So the mayor is always running. I'm running now in November of 23, but if and when I win, I would have to run for re-election again in November of 25.
Is this a full-time job, a part-time job? Is it a salary job?
It's definitely not a salaried job. The salaries for mayor and commissioner were set, I think, more than 60 years ago, and they've never changed. So the salary for a commissioner is $6,000 a year. You get a check for $500.
You can get a nice little place in Miami for that.
You can't really live very well here. And for mayor, I think it's 10 or 12,000, 10,000. There are other extras you get. You get a car allowance and some additional money, but it's not a full-time salary that you could live on in Miami Beach. For commissioner, all in with the package, I think it was 30-something thousand a year.
So I guess in order for you to pay for your Miami place, you on your own time, you are also a lawyer, correct?
Correct.
What kind of law do you practice?
Yeah, condo law. I work at Becker Polyakov, and I represent mostly condominium and homeowner associations.
Now, you mentioned the sense of duty and feeling that fire. Do you say that running for a mayor, is that a call to action, a service to the community, or is that just something that you just feel that fire, you want to be the leader of this community?
It's both. I mean, number one, if you don't have that fire, you can't run and win, because to do the things we have to do is not a lot of fun. Like, I'm spending all my weekends now knocking on doors in the hot sun all day. But you also need that community support. So I was very happy that the 3 remaining commissioners who will be there after November, they all endorsed me. They all encouraged me to run, as did many neighborhood association and community leaders. So that gave me the extra drive. It's one thing to want it, which I do, but you have to want it and also be able to have that support to win. So it's good when the two come together.
Right. I mean, that's great, because that parallel of doing things sincerely and really having that drive that you really have to create yourself is the same thing in restaurants and hospitality. Like, if you do not love what you do, you're not going to make it.
Right.
And I'm in shock right now, because, I mean, you don't get paid much to be the mayor of Miami Beach. I mean, I could be honest with you, that pay sounds terrible. And you know that. So it's obvious, if only for just that fact, that you're not doing this for money. You're doing this because you're really, really concerned and you really care about your the residents of Miami Beach, and you want to take care of them. You want to represent them well.
Absolutely. I do deeply care about our residents, and we need a good leader right now. We have a lot of issues facing the city: crime, traffic, In some cases, overdevelopment, homelessness, which has increased, cleanliness. I want to be the mayor for the people, but I also want to be the mayor for the small businesses because I think they work hand in hand. We all want the same thing: a safe city, a clean city, a
Right.
city that we're beautiful city. So I think that some prior administrations have just been focused on upscale developments,
Right.
and they've lost track of the little things. So I want to bring it back to focus on the little things. It's the little things that make the difference.
Right. And I'm curious, like, how do you juxtapose, like, when you're representing someone in your profession, law, like, how does that work? Like, can you tell them, like, oh yeah, by the way, we're gonna make this deal, and by the way, I'm also the mayor of fucking Miami Beach. How does that work?
It's a difficult balance because my businesses don't mix because of
Right.
the laws in Miami Beach. I and my law firm are precluded from appearing before the city commission or the land use boards.
Okay.
So we can't do that work. So there's no possibility for conflict of interest. In most places, Miami-Dade County, the mayor would disclose the conflict and then recuse themselves from voting, and the other members of the commission would vote. But Miami Beach took the ethics laws higher, and they said they don't even allow it. So I think it's good. It doesn't allow one thing to mix with the other.
Okay.
The only thing that I can probably say, having been a commissioner and hopefully being the next mayor, it does give you more name ID. People know who you are. So sometimes it does get your foot in the door for a meeting that otherwise you might not have.
There you go.
But that's it. And they really are very few benefits to my business of being in elected office.
Let's get into restaurants, shall we? Let's getting the foot in the door and some benefits here and there. Are there
Right.
any
Not perks, benefits.
benefits? Are there any benefits to being a
Yeah.
city representative, perhaps?
Yeah, Michael, let's play this semantics game. What are the benefits? You know, like, talk to about some benefits. I might want to run for office. You know, let's talk about restaurant.
What do you do? You get
benefits.
some perks. You get some food reservations. You get some expedite services.
All right, we'll get there in a minute. But first of all, I can tell you, nobody does this for any type of benefit because
Right.
the amount of work that you put in serving, if you're doing your job, you're putting in a 25 to 40 hour a week as a commissioner. I can imagine that the mayor is even more intensive. So you don't really get benefits because to me, benefits are money. They help me pay my mortgage. They help me pay my car. That doesn't happen. Serving on the city commission, you get invited to certain events that happen in the city. One example, I guess, would be the South Beach Wine and Food Festival, which is a nice event that you're invited to attend typically as an elected person. But I don't consider that even remotely a reason for running.
Right.
When you talk about reservations, now you're touching a sore spot, Adrian.
Go ahead.
No, you don't typically get reservations, but you've touched on a sore spot because there's many things that you do as an elected official, and you get calls about everything. There's a crack in my road. There's too much traffic. There's break-ins in the area. All that's legit. I'm happy to stop and talk to you, even when I'm at Publix, running in to buy laundry detergent. But the one thing that I don't like is, believe it or not, some people call you and ask you to help them get reservations into restaurants.
Right.
And that is my pet peeve. That is where I draw the line. I would never call a restaurant on your behalf and throw a title around to try to help somebody get a reservation. So it's very embarrassing for me when I have to tell people I don't do that, because sometimes you'd be surprised of the type of people that call you and ask you to do that. I'm not talking low profile, some high profile people. So yeah. My rule is I don't get involved in restaurant reservations and as an elected official.
Right. So there goes my my incentive to run for office. That's done.
There you go.
Check that off. Take
Listen,
that off
and
the
if you
list.
want to get a reservation in a nice restaurant, don't call your electeds. Call your servers.
Yeah.
We can get you a reservation.
Actually, I can get you a reservation. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I feel powerful today, dude.
There you go.
That's good to know,
Listen, if you want to get into a nice place, you call me. We know people.
I
all
didn't
right?
even know this until recently, just like it never dawned on me. But I think it's great. You have a wonderful server. You have a wonderful experience. I assume you have to tip well so that you're remembered.
Of course.
But then
Listen, otherwise that phone rings. You don't pick it up. Like, I don't pick up strangers.
yeah, you exchange numbers, and then you have an in to go back because obviously you both have an incentive to see each other again. So yeah, people, if you're listening, don't call elected officials. Call your servers.
There you go.
Speaking of tipping, would you consider yourself a good tipper when you dine?
I am. I am a good tipper. I typically leave at least 20%. And there's reasons for that because respect what servers do. And I think they work very hard for their money
Thank you.
in Miami Beach. And I want them to be compensated. And number two, I don't want people gossiping about the mayor, saying that the mayor's not a good tipper.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
See how that works? Love it. I love it. Now, give us some of your. Let's bring us to restaurants. Give us some of your positives and your negatives in restaurants. What are some of the things that happen in a restaurant that you're like, no? And what are some of the things that happen that you like?
Your pet peeves,
yes?
per se, when you dine out.
Okay. I will start with no, since you started with no. The worst thing for me is a dirty restaurant. You see stains on the tablecloth, or there's a significant amount of insects, or the grossest, like you go to a dirty bathroom.
Ew.
All right.
Yeah.
Dirty bathroom's disgusting, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Because if you go to the bathroom and it's dirty, you can only imagine what the kitchen looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a thing about bathrooms. I always go to the bathroom and wash my hands. And depending on the design of the restroom, I say, I know how much thought they put into this place.
Yeah, but you see,
Or if
you're-
they ran out of their money,
Yeah, but you're crazy.
I
I
know.
mean, you're nuts.
Clearly I am.
You go to a bathroom and look at the ergonomics of the sink and the faucet. Who cares?
Yeah.
If it's clean, it's clean. If it's dirty, it's dirty.
Of course.
I
Go
agree.
Go above and beyond.
So,
And positive?
positives. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm one of those ambiance people. You know, I love good food too, but for me, I have to feel good in the space. The layout has to be good. I have to be at a good table. You know, I also don't like to be like in the back corner by the kitchen. Like nobody wants that table. But
Unless, I mean, that makes sense. Mafia tables per se.
But yeah, you want to feel good. You want to be in a beautiful place that's clean. You want to have a nice server with a nice smile that makes you feel welcome. Nobody likes to feel like they're rude. Nobody wants to feel, you know, like somebody's being rude to them when you're about to spend money to eat someplace.
I mean, I'm not a sweetheart, but I'm not that rude,
And then finally, you need delicious food.
of course.
So-
Which brings up a good point, right? So here at Fancy Bread, we are going to start talking about restaurants in three categories. Okay, vibe or ambiance per se, the food at a restaurant, and the service quality at a restaurant. Now, because we don't believe that, we believe that there's a restaurant for everyone. And we're not just going to categorize these restaurants with numbers and stuff like that. We really want to get detailed and really, talk about the pros and cons of every place. So based on those three things, the ambiance, the food, or the service, what would you say is most important to you?
They're all important, but for me, the vibe and the ambiance would
Right.
be my number one. I have to feel good. I have to like the spot. You know, good energy, good vibe. It has to work. It can change overnight. You know, I don't want to speak ill of any restaurant, but I'll tell you, I used to like going to Meat Market on Lincoln Road because I thought it had a good vibe. I like the food and the service too, but I like the vibe.
Right.
And ever since it closed and there's a new restaurant there, like I walk by and it's just lost its mojo. I don't feel that vibe anymore. So if I don't like the vibe, then I don't go.
Right.
I understand. Speaking of Lincoln Road, that's one of those places that unfortunately here in Miami Beach has lost a lot. As you walk around, you see that there's more places that are closed than the places that are open. And that goes into ask, why is it so damn hard to open up a restaurant or a business here in Miami Beach?
It is very difficult. I actually have been talking about this a lot on the campaign trail. A lot of people lose their savings because they carry a business paying rent for months and months and months while they're waiting for their permits and their BTR. Then the rents are very expensive and it's hard to make it. I have a good friend who unfortunately recently closed her business on Lincoln Road because she wasn't making the numbers. As mayor, I want to make it easier. First, I want to have a concierge desk in the office of the mayor and commission. So if people just don't know who to call or where to go,
Right.
they have somebody to call in my office that can direct you to the right department, right person, and help you. And two, I really need to sit down with our building department and planning department, especially the building department, to figure out what is the disconnect here and cut through some red tape. Right now, we have one official that serves as both building director and building official, and her department is somewhat understaffed. So I want to bring it up to full staffing and perhaps separate those into two positions so we're more user-friendly.
Of course.
And I also want to look at why, when people are getting their permits, like an inspector can come and give them one set of the notes, do this on the baseboards, fix this wall. They do everything. And then a different inspector comes and gives them a different set of notes. So we have to have some more
Clear guidelines.
reliable notes that you can count on. So I want to make it better. I don't like hearing these stories that it's so hard to open a business or so expensive.
Right.
So that's one of the challenges that I will have as mayor to make that better.
Another thing that I've noticed, and I spoke to someone recently about this, was that the store submitted a renovation for the inside of their store, and just so that they didn't mess with the Art Deco preservation. Unfortunately, it was denied because even though it was inside, they were going to put all these colorful neons and items that they would be on even at night, and that would apparently take away from the Art Deco. And thus, in the meantime, they had a pop-up that would be the place that would make business while the place was being renovated, and now they're forced to have both places open because they pay for rent. So now they have two stores going on while they're still being approved for this renovation. And I understand that we are all about preserving the Art Deco. It's one of the many reasons why a lot of visitors come to Miami Beach, because we have this unique charm that you can't find anywhere else. But at the same time, I believe that we need to move that line slightly so that we are able to make new businesses and thrive, because otherwise, who's going to be able to make those businesses? So what can be done for this Art Deco preservation in order to move on and make new businesses?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I am a person that supports the Art Deco look and historic preservation, but it is difficult because there's two set of rules. If your property is in a historic district like Lincoln Road, you go before the Historic Preservation Board. If you're in a non-historic area, which I believe, let's say Mid Beach or North Beach, you go before the Design Review Board to make those changes. And it's a lot easier. The Historic Preservation Board, the way that it's set up, it has serious historic preservationists, and they can't appeal their decisions to the commission, only to the court. And because that's so expensive, they have the ability to demand a lot more. Mm-hmm. So I think we have to balance maintaining the historic look of our city with the efficiency of allowing projects to move forward and open. And one of the things we do as mayor and commission, we appoint the people that sit on that board. And I think it's important that we have fair-minded people that do support maintaining our historic look, but also understand the realities of doing business here. Because it takes somebody with a mindset to do both, a balanced mind.
I think definitely a different approach is important, because a lot of people would often say, why should I do a business on Miami? Like, who's coming there? And speaking of which, Miami normally is a place where we have about 80,000 people that live here in Miami, which is a number that's been declining, I would say, since the 80s. And a lot of people mention that is based off gentrification. What would you have to say towards that?
I think it's a couple of factors. Our population has dipped. I see two other reasons. Number one, a lot of people have built hotels. The number of hotels have gone up. So obviously that reduces full-time residents and gives more transient occupancy.
We have close to 500 hotels in Miami Beach.
Yeah. Number two, though, I think you've seen a lot of influx of people buying second, third, and fourth homes that aren't identifying as full-time residents. I've seen it on the campaign trail as I go to like the really expensive areas, where properties are going for $10 million and up. I'm seeing a lot less residents than I used to.
Right.
And I think a lot of New Yorkers and wealthy people from other places are buying those homes
Right.
as additional properties.
Mm-hmm.
So it concerns me that we have less full-time residents. I would like to help change that. Obviously, the cost of housing is a big factor for people in the working industry. Right now, we just kicked off a groundbreaking of a new workforce housing project in Collins Park, where we're creating 80 workforce housing units, the city. And I think we have more opportunities to do more of that, especially in North Beach. So I'd like to create more housing so that people can afford to live here that aren't, making more than 6 figures a year.
It's crazy. I mean, we're like New York, San Francisco numbers. It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, insane.
Yeah, Michael, can you do something about my rent? Jesus.
Or this goddamn heat.
Yeah.
Michael?
Can you fix
heat?
traffic? Can you fix relationships?
I can't do anything about the heat. Miami is hot, so people, you're just gonna have to adjust to it.
Yeah.
But if I can be out there every day canvassing in this heat, then everybody can survive it. It's one of the nice parts about living here. I think it keeps us young. You know, you get to sweat and you have all the moisture in the air. It's good for the skin. Look at the bright side. That's how you're staying so young.
No, I stay in the shade. Thank you.
That just sounds sweaty and gross, dude. Honestly.
You're a lot stronger than we are, my friend. I will not be out there in the sun.
Do you prefer to eat outside or inside?
Depends on the time of year.
Right now.
Right now, I prefer inside.
Of course.
Typically, like the hot months, July, August, September.
Yeah.
I prefer inside dining, but otherwise, I prefer to be outside.
I hate sitting outside to eat, man. At night, during the day, in the summer, in the fall, I don't care. Give me some air conditioning any day,
Thank you.
any single day.
That's why it's nice.
I'm sorry,
to
we're
have
a lot
options.
more spoiled, I guess.
Depends where you eat. You know, like there's a lot of beautiful restaurants that have outdoor seating where you can see the water.
Granted.
Or you can see something very pretty that there's an incentive to sit outside.
True. But that's like maybe for me personally, like 10, 15%. Like I hate sweating when I eat. It's disgusting. It's gross. You know?
You boys need to get outside more. I'm going to bring you canvassing with me one day.
Are you often recognized when you go out there to restaurants?
I am a fair amount of time. I mean, I've served here for a long time. So a lot of times they do. I never say anything other than making a reservation under my name. But sometimes they'll walk over and say something like, "Oh, Commissioner, nice to have you here." And since I haven't made the reservation with the title, they obviously recognize me.
So for any good server out there, maybe taking notes, what are some things that they should know about you? Like, what is your drink of choice? How do you like your meat cooked?
What do you think my drink of choice is?
Take a guess, Adrian.
No, that would be unfair because we already served him before, and I don't know what he likes.
You've served him before?
I served him before.
Let me take a guess. I'm gonna say red wine.
That is one of my choices. Depends what I'm having. I do like red wine, especially. I'm into California Cabernets right now.
As am I.
But I also like a dirty martini.
Que sucio.
Yeah.
Blue cheese olives?
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to lay off the calories, but, you know, if they're there, I'm going to eat them.
Right.
Perfect. How about your meat temperature? How you like your meat cooked?
Medium. Yeah. Which is a problem.
Very
Now,
political. Very political answer. Yeah, I like that.
Very diplomatic.
I like that.
I'm going to tell you, like, if I go out to eat with my dad, it's a problem because, like, he likes medium rare. So then we have to, like, if I'm splitting something, then I have to do that, whatever they call the thing between medium rare and medium.
Which, let me give you some insight. Doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Adrian, is there any such thing as plus temperatures?
No.
Medium rare plus, medium
No.
plus. Michael, you're a fantastic human being. If I ever serve you and you say, you're eating with your dad and you say, let me get medium rare plus, I will say, sure, no problem. Then I'll turn around, I'll go to the computer, I'll just fucking hit medium rare. Let's get on with the rest of our night, Michael.
Just
know
letting
what I
you
mean?
know how it is.
Just keeping it real with you.
But you lie and say it with a smile.
Of course, because it's psychosomatic, right? The meat's gonna come and you'll be like, wow, they take good
Well,
care
I
of
always
us
think it's
here.
better. I mean, overcooked steak is the worst because
It's
if it's slightly
terrible.
undercooked, people can ask them
Fix
to put it back on for a minute. I think it's safer.
That's the philosophy.
Yeah, I don't like it. You know, my Cuban grandmother, they came from Cuba. Like they used to eat their meat well done.
Right.
You know, those palomilla steaks, they burn them to a crisp.
This thing. Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of interesting as you get older. I'm like, I
Right.
don't really like the meat cooked that much.
All right. Things change.
Yeah.
Palates change.
Well, unfortunately, the one question that we couldn't find the answer or the exact answer for is how many restaurants are there in Miami Beach?
It's an impossible answer.
But it's an answer that we look forward to getting for everybody else listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, we look forward to that because it's definitely from 100 to 1,000. We don't know.
So 100 to 1,000,000. Who knows?
My best guess is 500. And I feel like I saw that number somewhere. But if I were guessing, I would say we have about 500 restaurants in the city. And we should be able to find out because you should be able to see who's pulled the BTR for a restaurant.
You know what? When you come back next time, hopefully we'll have that
We're
answer.
going to give that number. We're going to see how close I am.
Absolutely.
right.
There you go. We got 500 here. Perfect. But and that's very important because that's a major role that it does to the community because hotels, restaurants, and all the bars, all of the small businesses, they contribute to the community via tax. And Miami Beach has a particular tax itself. It's a 2% on restaurants, nightclubs, etc., and a 4% in hotels. Correct? And that all goes into the city's budget. How often and how does that budget gets distributed or allocated?
Well,
Thank you.
yeah, the budget is determined by the city commission, the mayor and the 6 commissioners. And in fact, they just do their hard work in July because that's typically when the budgetary questions are decided because the commission doesn't meet in August. And then by state statute, there's 2 meetings in September to do the vote on the budget that are public hearings where people can come and speak. So that money is used to pay for whatever the city determines. And it's important that that money comes into the city. I think it's a good thing because we keep our real estate property tax millage rate fairly low. When I was there, we were lower than the city of Miami. And part of the reason we're able to keep the taxes lower is because we have millions and millions of dollars that come in from other buckets, like the one you just mentioned.
And what can we do as citizens of Miami Beach to have our voice be heard, and how does that budget get allocated?
You should speak with the mayor and commission. Their meetings in July are publicly noticed, and there are a lot of people that come because there's a lot of groups that are asking for money or neighborhoods that are looking for projects to be prioritized. So typically the best way to do it is that one-on-one conversation with the mayor and the 6 commissioners leading into the July meeting so that your item is on their radar. And there are numbers that are moved around. Typically, I have never seen after the July meetings much change. Typically, you come out of July, you don't meet in August, and they come in September and vote for whatever they determined in July.
Right.
But there are amendments that happen all year round. So let's say your neighborhood needs work. There's a big hole in the street in front of your house, and that's not being addressed adequately. You can come and ask for a budgetary amendment, and that happens from time to time. So let me ask you guys a question. We're talking about the city and all the stuff that happens. Have either of you ever attended a commission meeting?
I've been to one.
He was my proxy.
He's been to one.
He was my proxy. I've never been.
You've been to none.
No.
Yeah, you got to stay informed and engaged. That's where it all happens. So either attend the meetings in person or you can watch them. I mean, I don't go to the meetings now either.
Right.
I watch them on Facebook Live a lot of the time, and you can tune in and watch the items that are more interesting or important for you. But that's where things get done. And we're a city. Last year's budget was approximately 800 million. This year's will be more. You know, for a city like you mentioned of 80-something thousand residents, that is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's important that people watch where that money goes. And it's surprising sometimes when you have little issues to me that maybe you don't see as important. You'll have 50 people come and talk about it. Then when we're passing an 800 and something million dollar budget, nobody comes and says a word.
I mean, Miami, from my experience, is a city where it's hard to make people give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth. That's the truth. I mean, you're telling me about these committee meetings, and I have to admit, I've never been to one. And I've lived in this city for over 10 years. Originally, I'm from New York, but I've lived in the city for over 10 years. And yes, I feel like it's important for people to go to the meetings if they have an issue they want to talk about, if they want to address, if they want to sort of have a part in how these funds are allocated. You know, putting things on the radar, per se. But, I mean, I'm sure you have, it's a challenge because people here don't give a shit about anything.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Are you registered to vote?
Do you have any other questions?
What? You have to register to vote by October.
I will. Michael, I'm going to register to vote. And yes, I was driving to work the other day, and I'm sure I've seen the sign a million times, but never looked at it. And it was a sign for you to be voted for, and I said, boom.
All right. Adrian, do you vote in the Miami Beach elections?
Of course I do.
All right,
I
you
will
better.
vote-
I'm
I
going to
will
go
vote
back.
now, I
I'm going to go
promise.
back and check your voting records after the
I
show.
will.
Go ahead.
I'll vote. I promise.
All right, let me ask you guys this. Since you're
Yes.
in the industry and you do so many shows about food,
Dale.
let me ask you, what is your favorite restaurant in Miami Beach?
I don't have a favorite restaurant in Miami Beach. I'm a geek. With food, I'm like a mad scientist. I have favorite specific things that I go to restaurants for.
Okay.
So you would have to ask me what my favorite specific dish is, and I'll tell you where I go to eat that dish.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start. Where's your favorite sushi spot?
Uchi.
Yeah, but that's Miami Dade.
Hey, listen. It's Miami,
This is,
bro.
by the way, fact.
It's Miami. Uchi. You're not going to make me sugarcoat my answers.
Respect.
Uchi.
What about you? What's your favorite sushi spot on the beach, Adrian?
At the time, Wabi Sabi.
Okay.
Wabi Sabi was good.
That's good.
Okay.
There's lots of good choices. It's funny because a friend of mine
not on
specifically
the beach.
asked me that the other day. Like, where would I recommend for sushi on the beach? And they caught me off guard. So
Right.
I always like recommend a restaurant that friends of mine have. So
Right.
I'm friendly with the V&E restaurant group, our largest restaurant employer in Miami Beach. So they own, Havana 1957, Cerveceria, O Mexico, Cafecito, Cafe Americano, and Paperfish Sushi. So I recommended Paperfish Sushi. Fortunately, the people liked it. They had a good meal. But I think everybody that's visiting likes Espanola Way. It's so cute to walk up and down for dinner. So it's a good experience.
It is cute. Espanola Way is cute.
So many restaurants in there. Now, I want to bring it into nightlife because some of the things that have been affected in the city has been its nightlife per se, especially what happened to Story, that the closing time went from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Right.
Based off of voting that was done in 2021, I believe, that people wanted to roll back those hours. That's a big business that drove a lot of people to Miami. It made huge events. Tons of people came in. They used our hotels, ate at our restaurants, etc. But unfortunately, that ended up being closed down. I believe that that's what's most because of what the residents want, based off versus what the visitors wanted. How do we go about making the right choice as to what is better for our city? Is it the people that are bringing in and spending money, or is it the people that are living in it?
Well, the people that live here always come first. Obviously, when you're a Miami Beach resident, your voice is the most important for the city council. That's who we respond to. But, I always try to be very balanced and fair in my decision making. When this whole rollback of hours came up a few years ago, I was against rolling back the hours of closure to 2 a.m. I was one of the votes against it, actually.
Right.
But I now have listened to the residents. We had a straw ballot question, and they said they want the commission to roll back the hours to 2 a.m. under criteria that they determine is correct. And we have been closing things earlier. Since I was on the commission, we started in Sunset Harbor, where we rolled back the hours to 2 a.m. And as a result, Purdy Lounge ended up closing. But the residents wanted that. They wanted to have a quieter neighborhood, and I think it works. So I'm not on the commission this year, but the commission did that, as you just mentioned, south of 5th. The residents that have moved there, and it's become more of a residential community, don't want to have a loud nightclub late at night. So the majority of the commission rolled back those hours, and it was affirmed by a judge. They said the commission had the authority to do that. So I think that is probably staying that way. The biggest business impacted was Story, which I like Dave Grutman a lot, but I know that they were planning on redeveloping that anyway. Jeff Sofer, who owns the Fontainebleau, had bought the property, and I think they're looking to redevelop that into a residential condominium. So it was the closure was coming eventually anyway. I think the city just jump-started it.
Right.
But now we're looking at other areas like West Avenue. Those buildings don't want to have things open till 5 a.m., and I understand that, and I support them. But I also support the businesses that invested to be in a mixed-use area, which is very business-oriented, like what we call the MXC, which is Ocean Drive, Collins Avenue, Washington, between 5th and 15th, which has kind of been the core where businesses like restaurants and bars and nightclubs were encouraged to invest. And I don't think that we should roll back the hours in that area.
God bless
That's
you.
interesting, is because if we keep it to that particular area, then I guess that makes sense. It'll be even easier to manage and also secure by police officers, etc. Some of the things that people will mention is that some of the measurements that have been taken against spring break or big times like that have had this history of violence or problems, that some hotels perhaps have raised their prices during those times, or that restaurants would also do the same. But in the end, that also gave to other problems, because instead of one person staying in a hotel room, now 7 people are staying in a hotel room. And instead of drinking in a restaurant or establishment, people are bringing liquor from outside and then just drinking it and doing big parties in the hotel rooms or drinking it out on the street. So what measurements can be taken in order to, in a way, remedy this? Because it's so hard to sometimes make the right call that'll make everybody happy. Because people just want to come here and party for summer.
It's impossible, man.
People come from everywhere. They don't have a beautiful beach or scenery like the one that we do, and they just want to come out here and have a good time.
And be ratchet as fuck.
Yeah.
Bro.
Thank you.
Michael had to say it.
You're never going to make everybody happy. And if you get into government thinking that that's realistic, then you're going to learn quickly that you can't. You got to worry about doing the right thing, the correct thing. And that's what I always try to do. The spring break issue is kind of interesting because even though it happens during spring break, most of the people causing the problems are not spring break students. It's actually day trippers that are coming from other parts of South Florida, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach that I don't think can afford to stay in the hotels or eat in the restaurants. So they do show up with packaged liquor or worse, drugs, or even worse, weapons.
Right.
And then they get into fights and pull out a gun. And we've seen some really bad examples.
Yeah, terrible.
So yeah, we're looking to stop that. And unfortunately, it always peaks like that third week of spring break that coincides with St. Patrick's Day weekend.
Of course.
So I know that the city is looking at a potential rollback of hours to midnight in 2024. They haven't passed it yet. I think they've continued it to the September commission meeting for further discussion. But it's a difficult choice. We got to keep the city safe.
Right.
We got to let people know that anything goes party atmosphere is not going to be welcome or accepted here in Miami Beach. We don't want to hurt our businesses, but if businesses are having to close anyway because there's a shooting going on, then it might be good to be proactive and get ahead of the problem. So we want that crowd to know that that's not the place to make things happen.
Right.
And you know what? We changed Memorial Day completely. We brought in the Air and Sea Show and all of these military events. And the problems that we used to have on Memorial Day have gone away. Like this Memorial Day was beautiful, family oriented, and the bad shootings moved to Hollywood Beach. So it's if you give
got rid of that problem, huh? I'm messing with you.
I like Hollywood Beach, but I represent Miami Beach. So
I'm messing with you. It's terrible. It's terrible anywhere. I mean,
of course, if you make events to bring people into the city, then you would invite the people that are interested in that. So one event that I very much enjoy was the 4th of July that they did an orchestra on the beach and the fireworks. It's always something that I very much enjoy.
I went to the Air and Sea Show.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. I went out one day to look at the planes. I'm campaigning, so I didn't stay too long, but it is nice. And a lot of people love it. You know, people have different levels of interest. Some people love planes and boats. You know, it's good to have a mix for everybody. And I didn't stay for the concert. I think it was a country music artist. And, you know, I like all kinds of music. Country's not my favorite. So I decided to keep campaigning.
I've been living here in the beach for about 8 years to 9 now. And I would say that I very much enjoyed every time that they would do events on the sand. Like they would do all these concerts. I remember when they brought Imagine Dragons for almost to the... It's great concerts. And I see it as a bit of a decline in the events that are happening on the sand. I'm not sure if maybe that's because of allocation of funds or exactly what's going on. But I would very much enjoy seeing those events coming back into the beach. It's something very nice.
I love events, and I do want to be a mayor of arts and culture, and I consider musical events part of that vision I have for the city. I don't think we're doing it during spring break right now because we're not trying to add more events, but I would like to see regular programming throughout the year and music for everybody. I mean, years ago, they had Pavarotti on the beach, and people that were there still talk about that beautiful outdoor concert. My last year on the commission, I pushed for funding for freestyle concerts. We had a number of 80s acts out there. Shannon, Let the Music Play, Crystal Waters, different acts performing. So I like it. And, you know, I went to Alanis Morissette one year on the beach, which was really interesting.
It's ironic.
Yeah, so it's good to have different kinds of music that different people like. And everybody likes to be outdoors in the sand. we got to like not over bombard the area with events, but I think we have plenty of room for programming, at least one nice thing in a month for our residents and visitors to enjoy.
Right.
Absolutely. And it brings people into the city and they see it and they're like, oh, I'm gonna come here more often. I'm gonna hang around here. I'm gonna eat there. I'm gonna maybe stay around this area or come walk around, bring my kids, etc.
The restaurants benefit. They're hungry. They're
Right.
gonna have dinner before or after.
Yeah, I mean, which reminds me, like on your platform, one of the things that you seem to be focusing on, and I love, is that you're focusing on the vibe of the city. I mean, before I lived here, Miami for me was Art Deco, partying, culo, and tits, right? I'm not into those things personally. That's just what my perception of the city was, right? But I know for a fact that one of your goals is to shift the vibe of the city into a more arts and culture focused, which I love.
More sophisticated fun.
Right.
We're a fun city and a
Yeah.
sexy city.
Yeah,
And I don't want to change that, but I don't think we have to be a late night party branded city. I think that there's places that will be open for people that are looking for that party, but I want to shift the party up. I want to focus on restaurants that have nice lounges with DJs that you don't need to be out all night at, art events, concerts outdoors, things happening earlier in the city. I think it's a more sustainable model for Miami Beach
I agree.
than being known as a late night party town.
I agree. And that coincides with the food culture as well, you know, because for the first time ever, Miami is a food city. You could have thought that before, but you might have been wrong. Now there's a Michelin star guide here in Miami. For the year 2023, Miami was voted the #1 food city in America by Bon Appetit. So that shift is happening. You know, it's not just all about the beaches anymore. It's the beach is there and it's beautiful. And like we just mentioned, you can go there and have a great time. But now it's more about a sophisticated nightlife and going out to have a great time and being safe and enjoying the food and the drinks and higher profile investments being made in the city to sort of go in that direction. And I love it, honestly.
Yeah, no, I love it too. There's great restaurants at all levels and price ranges opening
Right.
here. A lot of restaurants have opened from New York that bring that buzz. Others have opened here. Somebody was telling me, I didn't even know this the other day, that some restaurants like Mila sell memberships now so
Yep.
that you're insured getting a reservation. So talk about a difficult restaurant to get into.
Yeah, Queen does that too. There's a couple of restaurants that now have their what do you call that?
Memberships, reservations,
Yeah, they have like a members area only.
patrons.
Yeah,
Well, I have to tell you, Queen for me is the most beautiful restaurant in Miami Beach.
Right.
They did a wonderful historic renovation. They spared no detail. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So for high-end dining, because it's pricey, I think it's
Right.
it's a wonderful experience. I was happy to go there. I thought the food was excellent also. But like I told you, I really am into ambiance and vibe, and it's so gorgeous to be
it definitely
there.
excels in that.
Yeah,
But it took them years to redevelop that place, by the way,
yeah.
which is very important. Hopefully, something that we'll expect to change. And speaking of change, what is the difference between being a commissioner and being a mayor? And what would you like and hope to achieve as an elected mayor?
Well, the commission is made up of 7 members, the mayor and 6 commissioners. We
Right.
don't have a strong mayor like Miami-Dade County does, where the mayor can veto things and the mayor actually runs the county. So you're a 7-member board, so you are one of 7 votes, but you're also the face of the city. You're the one that calls the items on the agenda and decides how they're called. You also appoint the commissioners on the respective subcommittees of the commission. So you're more powerful and you do have a little louder voice because of that. As mayor, I want to accomplish many things, but probably some of the most simple is I want to restore law and order in our city. We were talking earlier about spring break, and some of that vibe happens all year long, where you walk on Ocean Drive or the other areas, and you just don't feel as safe as you used to, or you see or smell drug use happening. So I'm the police-endorsed candidate, and we've just hired a new police chief here. So I'm looking forward to working with him and the entire department to letting people know we're a city of laws and making sure that we make it safer and stamp out that visible crime element that
Right.
we've been seeing.
Yeah.
That's my #1 priority in running for mayor, because really when you're running a town, your basic functions are keep your city clean and safe. Everything else is extra. And I think we need to do better.
Wow.
So, being a representative of the LGBTQ plus community, you haven't told us what your favorite restaurant is, apart from all that. But also, this is a very open-minded city, and it's a very safe city to be who you are and identify as who you want to be. But there are certain restaurants that are more focused on, being extremely open and having an even better time. So what would you say your favorite restaurant is? And if you're a member of the LGBTQ plus community, where would you go to have just let it loose and have a fantastic time?
The great part about living in Miami Beach is you can go to any restaurant and feel good. I feel very comfortable eating at any restaurant in the city of Miami Beach with my partner. Doesn't have to be a specifically gay restaurant. And we like all kinds of restaurants.
Of course.
I usually go to more casual restaurants where there's locals and people that I know. One of our favorites, and it's probably because it's within walking distance of where I live.
Right.
It's like the only one that I can walk to from where I live is Cafe Bernie, which is owned by one of the commissioners, Kristen Rosen Gonzalez, and her husband, Bernie Matz. Has a beautiful view of the water, one of the few places you can eat at and look at the water, reasonable prices and good food.
Right.
And I like many restaurants. If I want to go for like a specific gay vibe, usually it's when I have friends in town visiting and they want to do something fun off the beaten path. And we'll probably do one of the drag brunches, usually at the Palace on Ocean Drive.
Let's go.
It's like since this RuPaul show has taken off, everybody seems to love a drag brunch.
Right.
And the Palace isn't even as gay as it used to be. It's now we go. It used to be mostly gay men. Now it's mostly women, bachelorette parties, women's birthdays. The women love the drag queens.
They love the drag brunches. Let me tell you something. If you're looking to invest into a restaurant concept, invest into a drag brunch because that fucking thing prints money. Yep. The new Palace is like 3 or 4 times the size of the old one. And they take up the entire street, and the energy, the vibe is ridiculous. I went to the Air and Sea show, as I mentioned. You could hear the brunch at the Palace over the planes and helicopters.
Oh my God. I don't really hear the music, but I have noticed the fan snapping is big. I hear snap, 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 snap.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. As long as the food is good, I don't care. I mean, let's do it. I'm good with whatever.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to say to the people that are watching or listening today?
Just that Miami Beach has the best restaurants, in my opinion, of any place in the world. So make sure you come here because whatever you want, you're going to find it in a beautiful setting. Whether it's South of 5th, Ocean Drive, Lincoln Road, up in Mid or North Beach, we've got everything going on, and there's still a lot more openings. So stay tuned. If you want to reach me after today, Michael Gongora, I'm on all the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or you can email me at michael@michaelgongora.com.
Thank you. And get out there and vote, please, for God's sake.
Oh, yeah. Election day, November 7th. I'm going to be checking and make sure you're registered to vote.
I have to vote
I'm
now.
looking up your voting record.
I have to vote now.
You got it.
I'm going to, though.
I'm going to take some pictures. I'll post it in my story. But it's important that you go out there and vote. Elections have consequences. It's important that you go out there and you have your voice be heard. Also, let us know in the comments down below what questions you would like to ask Michael here as well. And hopefully if he gets elected, he'll come back and answer some of those for you as well. Anything else you want to say today?
No, thank you all. Appreciate you listening today. Stay tuned because I will be coming back.
Michael, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for listening.
Don't forget to tip.
And we look forward to hosting you again real soon.
Take care, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe.